Good evening and welcome to another episode of History Bluffs, where truth is stranger than fiction. I want to welcome to the show at this very moment your host, Gina.
Hi, everybody out there. I can see you all, but I have tunnel vision right now. Welcome to History Bluffs. I'm your host, Gina Bobina, and I'll be taking you through a wonderful, fun night of historical facts and one lie. This is how our History Bluffs game works. It's a live podcast. It's live streaming now. You can listen to it as a podcast later. And we're on Spotify, and you can kind of find out all the things. But let me tell you the rules for this if this is your first time. We are going to play a game where we have 3 armchair historians. They're going to come out. They will tell you stories. All of the stories will be true except for one. That person will be your bluff. And I'll get into more of the rules later, but let's meet the historians. So let's welcome to our show, Charlie Downs. Let's give it up for Charlie. So hi, Charlie. Oh, Charlie.
Hey, how's it going?
Are you drinking? Is this a hump day drinking day?
Always.
Oh, good.
No
what
one
you got
told
in your...
me it was drinking day.
Well, Adam, you're not on screen. Go get a drink, come back. We'll be right with you. Got it.
Right.
I'm going to ask Charlie some questions. Charlie, actually, my question is, what are you drinking, first off?
A little bit of bourbon with some habanero simple syrup.
So is that spicy?
Yeah.
Oh, very nice. Have you ever done any kind of pranks, or have you ever seen any kind of pranks where somebody pulled their pants down? And I say that because it'll go with our subject tonight.
I don't think I've ever seen anybody like purposely have their pants pulled down unless it was part of like a scripted theater moment.
Oh, very cool. And the reason I say our subject tonight is moon. So that's
okay. I gotta know.
They're not like, what the hell is she doing? So that's cool. Okay, so like, do you remember the show that you saw that in?
No, that's what I'm saying. Is like I feel like I've seen stuff like that, but I feel like it's only been in like a theater atmosphere, and it wasn't like some guy on the football team or something.
Oh, gotcha. Very contained. It happened to me one time on the highway. It was somebody sticking their hiney out of a window, and it was funny because it was the child window, like where they don't go down all the way, and they were in the back seat, so it was like so it was very funny. But let's bring out our next guest, and that's going to be Alan Forbes. Everybody say hi to Alan. Well, everybody in the world, and we can't hear you, but do it anyway. How fun. Alan, you're drinking too? What the hell? What are you drinking?
This is Sprite. And
what's
it is
in that?
What's in Sprite?
Yeah.
It's got carbonated water, high fructose corn syrup, and a variety of chemicals. I don't know what the names are.
Oh, it's not alcoholic. Okay,
No, Sprite is it can be found in most stores, pharmacies, grocery stores, and my glass features Thor, the God of Thunder, in his original Jack Kirby form. There you go.
Are we all going to get to split the proceeds that Alan is getting from all these mentions of brands?
They are my sponsor. Only Sprite, no other Coke products.
Yeah, we do have to get a spot. We have to work on that because we'll really do plug some products here. So Sprite is very good. And then I had a question, Alan, when like you showed that thing of Thor, and doesn't he live on another planet?
He lives in Asgard, which depending on what version you're following, it's either a different dimension or, as you describe, another planet. So yeah.
So my question then becomes: are there any moons related to his planet?
Oh goodness. Well, they call them the 9 worlds. So one of the worlds that the 9 worlds are. One of the worlds is actually Earth, which they refer to as Midgard.
Oh, I don't know how I feel about that. Right guard's a deodorant. I don't know. We'll think about it.
Asgard, right guard, and Midgard. Yes.
I think I used to play Midgard in my soccer team when I was a kid.
Soccer? I know. I think my brother did too. That's funny. Okay, so so this is the 3. We're already having fun, man. We're gonna welcome Chris because this way Chris Berry will add to the fun. Give it up for Chris! Yay! Welcome to the show. What's up, Chris? How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Good. Now, for our podcast listeners, this won't make sense, but for the people watching us, your hair is almost longer than mine now. So how long have you been growing it out?
I last got a haircut in March of 2020.
Nice. I mean, it's so curly for those of you who can't see it, that it's still springing above his shoulders, but it's getting there. It's very, very funny.
And yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because when it's wet, I'm just out of the shower, my hair is actually as long as yours now.
Yeah, I would think so, at least, right? That's great. That's very funny. And then, did you have anything when you were a little kid? Did you have anything that you wanted to grow up and be? What were your top three?
Oh boy, it probably changed from week to week because I had, well, first I had 4 older brothers and a very large family. We would have like regular holiday gatherings of 30 plus people on a regular basis. Both my parents came from big families, so I had cops and firemen and lawyers and all sorts of stuff in the family, and so I would see those, and then I was an avid sports enthusiast, and I would love acting. So on any given week, it could have been I wanted to be an actor, I wanted to be an astronaut, I wanted to be a cowboy, I wanted to be a football player, I wanted to be a baseball player. So it kind of varied depending on the wind.
That's very cool. And what did you end up being?
I actually ended up going into none of those things, and I do investor relations for a publicly traded company.
That's fun.
Not a childhood dream, but I grew into it.
Yeah, no, I mean, hey, go where the money is, and then later you can become an astronaut when they open that moon thing, So that'll be great. I think the reason I asked, and I was hoping you'd say astronaut, but I wasn't sure, because I have a lot of brothers as well, and that was like, it seems like a big thing, fireman, astronaut, that kind of thing. But tonight we're going to be talking about the moon, and I'm going to tell the audience a couple of things, and then I'll get back to you guys in just a second. So first, just for the audience, Adam, would you throw up the rule card for us, if you don't mind?
Got it. Here are some rules.
Awesome. Thanks, Adam, the tech. So we're going to give the actors now know that their subject is moon. They are going to do a little bit of research to kind of get their sort of premise of how they're going to relate their story to you. One of them, and we don't know which one just yet, is lying. So their entire story will be false. They may take a couple of pieces of history. So if it was in the 1800s, they might make reference to Lincoln or something like that. It could be, related in those kinds of ways, but they cannot lie about the whole premise or the whole story. Also, if you're playing along, and we'd love for you to in the audience, if you're watching the live stream, then you can write comments in the side if you'd like. But what we ask is that you don't look anything up on Google while we're playing and write anything in that might indicate who the liar or who the truth tellers are. And the reason we do that is just so that the game is fun. There are some stakes. So at the end, it's kind of this fun decision to figure out who's lying, and you get to guess and play along. But we'll start. We're going to start right now with what we call round one, and we'll get going. So the rounds work like this. We're going to, they have 3 minutes to tell their whole story. First round starts now. I'm actually going to go in the order that I started. So I'll start with Charlie. Charlie, when you come up to the screen, you're going to have 75 seconds on the clock, and you're going to get to start to tell your story in 3 parts. And this is your first part, starting right now.
Okay, I call this story The Mystical Moon and the Sapphire Society. On August 21st, 1835, which happens to be my birthday, the month and day, not the year, there was a publication in the New York Sun saying that they had learned that a publisher in Edinburgh, that Sir John Herschel was at the Cape of New Hope and had made some astronomical discoveries of a most wonderful description. Then later, starting on August 25th and going for over a week, they continued to publish articles that from the Edinburgh Courant that were excerpts from a paper published by the Edinburgh Journal of Science. And they were fascinating. On day one, they talked about the telescope and how big it was and how it had a second mirror, and how that second mirror was a hydro-oxygen microscope that actually let them see in great detail, along with a professor, a man who was working there named Dr. Grant, who had actually worked with Herschel's dad and had discovered Uranus with him. On day two, you'll find out more.
Oh, speaking of moon, he discovered Uranus. How fun. We're going to continue your story on the next round, but I'd love to go to our panelists to hear what their thoughts are. So, Alan, what are your thoughts? Give us your input here. Do you think he's lying? Tell us more.
Well, it's interesting that he was very quick to correct that he wasn't born the year that this all took place. I'm not so sure if that was a truth or not. He does look a couple hundred years old, but maybe that's just me.
His fedora.
It's the beard.
One of his main characters is Dr. Grant. Now, we all know Dr. Grant is the main character in Jurassic Park, so clearly this is fiction. And hydro oxygen telescope. Look, clearly they don't make telescopes out of water. I call shenanigans.
It was funny. I love you call shenanigans. I thought the same thing, like that it was out of water because isn't hydrogen and oxygen water when you? So that was what I thought too. So Chris, you tell us your thoughts, and then we'll all start to figure out whether we believe him or not.
Yeah, I was somewhat. Some flags went up. I'll put it that way. I'm not going to say that I'm skeptical of Charlie yet, but some flags went up when he started referencing the periodicals, the newspapers, and they had very American-sounding names, like the Current, and I forget what the other one was, but it was just short of Daily Bugle, and I was like, whoa, wait a minute, come on, hold on, this is Scotland, not Metropolis. So the flag went up.
Oh, I love that the flag went up, but it has not been thrown yet. So we're not sure if there's a penalty just yet. I did focus on that a little bit too, Chris, because I heard him say the New York Sun, which I thought was sort of an oxymoron. So I was like, okay. But then, so now let's go to, why don't you stay there, Chris, and why don't you start your story for round two? And I'll get you a clock up on the screen. And are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go. My beginning of round one, yes.
Okay, round one, go for it right now.
All right. So my story is, your question to Charlie was actually prophetic because I was inspired by mooning because when you said moon, the first thing that popped into my head was the lyric from the song "The Streak," and in there there's a lyric where the guy he's walking with his wife and the streaker runs by and he's like, "Don't look, Ethel," and he said, but it was too late. She'd already been mooned. So that made me think of streaking. So I am looking up the history of streaking. And so we go back to the ancient Olympics 3,000 years ago. And all the participants, all the athletes, they actually participated in the nude. And it was thought that clothing restricted their athletic movement. Obviously, Under Armour and Nike didn't exist back then, so they couldn't have that nice movement that we have today. But that that naked participation led to the birth of streaking, and I'll tell you in our second round exactly who did it and why he did it. But back then they didn't call it streaking; they called it limping, Lymping, as in the Olympics. But it was basically running naked as a form of protest. And I will give you the specifics on how that was launched in the second round.
Oh, great timing! And I have decided just now that if your story is true, the reason that they changed the name from limping to whatever they call it now was pretty obvious for the men. So, all right, Alan, what do you think?
I think that the term limping should never have gone away because of what Gina's insinuating. Because we've never seen anyone streak at full mast, so to speak.
I feel like we can go to Charlie now, unless you would need more time.
No, that's
good. Okay.
I'm a little confused, and it sounds like he's making this up, because if everybody in the Olympics is complete peating naked, how is also running naked some kind of protest? Like how would anybody even know he wasn't one of the original contestants? You know what I mean? Like it's like, I'm gonna protest Big Macs by eating a lot of Big Macs.
I have enjoyed that you said they competed. It's just like it was cute, and could be one word. Anyway, never mind. That's a good point. I'm a little torn on this round. I'm going to listen to your story now, Charlie, and I'm going to try to figure out if I can tell who is bluffing. So, Charlie, okay. Your round one begins right now.
Well, Charlie went.
Should Alan go? Because
hey, Charlie, your round one is already done. So we're going to move to Alan. Sorry about that, our studio audience. Hey, Alan.
Yes.
Alan, I think you know it's coming, but round one is going to start for you right now.
All right. Well, that's great that we just talked about ancient Greece, because I have something that has a reference to Greek mythology. But what I was inspired by, the moon, was werewolves. And one of the first earliest example of a werewolf was in Greek mythology, where I may mispronounce this. Lycaon was a ancient Greek mythological character who, according to legend, served Zeus a meal made from the remains of a sacrificed human. And as punishment, Zeus was enraged, and he turned Lycaon and his sons into wolves. And that's where we also get other terms that are using the word Lyca in there as a prefix with regard to people that feel like they're turning into wolves or turning into animals. It's actually a medical, psychological condition. Werewolf is a mythological species that is known throughout the world. There are different cultures that take on the werewolf. Nordic tradition also has a werewolf legend. I'll talk about it more later.
That's awesome. In my head, I always thought that Lyca was what you put on when you did yoga or something like that. You know, like stretchy material.
Lycra.
Oh, that's Lycra. Okay. Well, I mean, it's still like material on your body. They had hair on their body. I don't know. Anyway, Charlie, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I think it's obvious that this is the false one because Laika was the name of the first dog in outer space in Russia. And so clearly Russian dog, werewolf, it's just so, like, he didn't even think hard about his lie. It just one after another just fell into place.
Ooh. I'm not on the Russian side today, but maybe that was why they named it that. I don't know. So, Chris, what do you think?
This one hits a little nerve with me because since I've not cut my hair since March of 2020, a couple of people have accused me of being a werewolf recently. So I think I see Charlie's point here. It seems like Zeus was frequently being surrounded by like sacrificed humans. So why would he just get mad at Lycan and his son? And what did the son do? I don't know why he would turn them both into werewolves. Seems a little harsh on the part of Zeus, but I wasn't there.
Oh, okay. So flag. Where's the flag on this one?
Flag is out, but not thrown.
Not thrown. Okay,
not
so
thrown.
Chris has not chosen 100% completely who he thinks is lying. I know that Zeus changed into animals, like he changed into a swan to seduce Leda. I mean, he did stuff like that, so that part scans. But I don't know. I've never heard of a Lycia, whatever you said. However, I am interested in the round two. Also, the Lycra. Okay, no, that's the stuff you wear to yoga, Chris. Hello. Okay, so we're gonna move to round two. Not two. There we go. And I would love to start out where we left off last in round one with Charlie again, because I left him hanging. It's his turn. Go for it, Charlie. Your round begins right now.
Okay, on day 2, the Sun published that they had seen red flowers and brown bison and blue goats on the moon, and a strange amphibious creature of spherical form that rolled with great velocity across a pebbly beach. On day 3, they published that there were lots of animals and plants, but the most interesting was a bipedal beaver that gave birth to its young in its arms and also had huts that had smoke coming out of them. So clearly it knew what fire was. On day 4, they talked about the incredible winged bat-like humans called Vespertilio Homo, which flied around the moon and created a society. On day 5, they talked about a spherical tower or sapphire tower that was on the moon and looked like a torch. And on day 6.
Oh! Did you leave us there on purpose, or just because you ran out of time? Because I will allow that sentence to finish. Or are you holding it?
No. I'm just gonna let it go.
Oh gosh, this is very edge of your seat fun. Chris, what do you think?
As Charlie was speaking, the song by America popped in my head. On the first day, blah blah blah. It's like they were on psychedelic. Red flowers. A blue bison on the moon. It's like where the subject is moon, not psychedelics. I'm very skeptical.
Technical note: the bison were brown, the goats were blue.
Blue goats, brown bison. I stand corrected.
Yeah.
but
See?
still on psychedelics.
I also enjoy your trickery, Charlie, to try to confuse us by sort of lying in your story and then self-correcting. Alan, what are your thoughts on his story?
You
What are
know,
your
and I'm
comments?
speaking as someone who's talking about werewolves. This is totally far-fetched. We've got bipedal beavers and bat-winged humans. We've been to the moon since this story takes place, and we've disproven all of the existence of this stuff. So I don't know what's up with their hydro-oxygen telescope. It clearly is made from something that is affecting their brains.
Right. I feel like it was the Bible a little bit, but out of order, but then not. It was so bizarre. It was
Oh,
such
okay,
a
with the
weird
day one and
day
yeah,
one.
okay, I get it.
But
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
the things that happened on the days were a little different. Like the bat humans were invented in whenever Stan Lee wrote that, or whoever. No, Stan Lee's the other guy. Whoever wrote Batman.
Stanley wrote about this guy here.
Yeah, about Thor. I don't know who wrote Batman, but I know he was part of the Bat humans. Okay, so back to this is round two. I would love to hear Alan's story continued right now. So, Alan,
Okay.
you're up, and you are ready to begin now.
All right, fantastic. Well, let's talk about the shapeshifter as a werewolf. Now, some legends maintain werewolves shapeshifted at will due to a curse, and others state that they transformed with the help of an enchanted sash or a cloak made of wolf pelt, which may be where Gina gets her yoga clothes from. And there's still others claim people became werewolves after being scratched or bit by a werewolf. In many werewolf stories, a person only turns into a werewolf when there's a full moon, the topic of today's episode. And that theory may not be far-fetched because according to a study conducted at Australia's Calvary Mater Newcastle Hospital, a full moon brings out the beast in many humans, and that study found that of 91 violent acute behavior incidents at the hospital between 2008 and 2009, 23% happened during a full moon. Now, if you ask me, 23%, is that a significant amount? I don't know.
Ooh, I actually think it is. That's almost a quarter of the population. That's a lot of people, I would
guess.
think. Charlie, your thoughts?
Well, I don't know. I think I remember seeing an episode of ER where it was like taking place on a full moon, and they just had a whole bunch of crazy people coming in, and so I think that might be where. Are you a big ER fan, Michael Crichton?
I like Michael
Alan,
Crichton, but I never watched ER.
Anthony Edwards,
no,
George
no.
Clooney.
Very
again,
much.
I
Sorry.
cited Dr. Grant earlier, and that is through my love of Michael Crichton, but I do not watch ER.
Okay.
No, but I did watch ER, and no, it's coincidentally a lot of people that I know that work in ERs. They say the same thing actually, that on the full moon there is a lot more activity. Chris, what do you think?
Well, okay, I'm on board with Charlie on this one here, Alan. You referenced shapeshifters, and hey, I saw True Blood on HBO too. Okay, as well. And then the whole thing with the hospital. Come on, that's American Werewolf in London, where the guy becomes a werewolf and then he goes to the hospital, he hooks up with the cute nurse. It's this story's already been written.
It's a good movie.
It is a good movie. Ooh. This is fun. There are holes in everybody's stories, including yours, Chris, but your turn is now. So why don't you go ahead and start your round two at this moment now?
All right. So my round two begins with a note to Charlie, who jumped the gun on his accusation, because I'm about to now explain the father of this streaking, or as they called it back then, limping with a ly, not limping as if Gina, your strategy would have been called flapping, by the way. But no. So there was a man named Kyriakis Kyriakou, and he was a cook from the nearby city of Ilios, and he was disqualified. He was supposed to be in 7 events. He was a great athlete. He was supposed to be in 7 events. He was disqualified because he wasn't Athenian. So his streaking protest, Charlie, took place after all the events had been held, and they were giving out awards and stuff, which, by the way, they didn't give out medals back then. They just gave out the wreaths on their head. So this guy ran naked as protesting, say he should have been an athlete while they were giving out the awards. That's how it started.
Oh, so Chris, are you saying that Kyriakis was standing on his laurels by streaking?
The other guys were standing on their laurels. By the way, it was Kyriakis Kyriakou, not
Kiri,
curiosity.
I love the name. I think that anytime you add an O at the end of a name, it becomes Italian. You add a US, it becomes Greek. So whether you're telling the truth or not, I'm buying it a little bit. Alan, what do you think?
I didn't realize that you can just participate in things as protest when they don't let you in their little exclusive club. So I'm gonna just do that from now on. I'm just gonna do my thing that I wasn't allowed to do in the first place. When I'm still doing it. I'm still doing it.
Yep, I feel like if we walk away from this show with nothing else, we have learned that. So that's great. Charlie, your thoughts?
Well, two things. One, the name Curious. His name is Curious. And
stop it up.
and then the second thing is are they still naked when they're getting an award? Because I still don't think him being naked and running looks anything different than just running.
They weren't a nudist society. They were naked during the competition, and then they had clothes on. They had their togas or whatever they wore back then, and that's when he did the thing. That's why it was known. That's why it was controversial.
There were lycra togas. Definitely lycra togas that were held together with leaves on the top of their.
Correct.
That was from a former episode for those of you paying attention.
Oak leaves.
All right, so then I don't know. This still makes me curious for round 3, even though it's everybody's punching.
You mean curiosa?
You get me. So we're gonna move to round 3 now, and so that we can find now. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the final round, so pay attention. If there are any holes to be poked, it's now. So Alan, go ahead and start your round 3. We'll get him in the center square, and when we get him there, we will start round. Ooh, and so Alan is there now. So Alan, your time starts now.
Are werewolves real? The werewolf phenomenon may have a medical explanation because take Peter the Wild Boy, for instance. In 1725, he was found wandering naked on all fours through a German forest, and many thought he was a werewolf or at least raised by wolves. Peter ate with his hands but couldn't speak, and he was eventually adopted by the courts of King George I and King George II and lived out his days as their pet in England. Research has shown that Peter likely had Pitt-Hopkins syndrome, a condition discovered in 1978 that causes lack of speech, seizures, distinct facial features, and difficulty breathing and intellectual challenges. Lycanthropy is the condition where people believe they're turning into a wolf.
Oh my God. Okay, so this is a real thing that exists. And this guy that they found wasn't Mowgli? Like it was a real person?
Maybe he inspired the story about Mowgli or Greystoke, which was Tarzan, all that stuff.
Oh, wow. Okay, so it sounds like it's a real condition that may explain why people think werewolves exist. So what do you guys say, Charlie?
Well, I find it very interesting. Was this Peter also represented by the String family, like he is in Peter and the Wolf?
Oh, that's a good observation that I didn't think of. Chris, what are your thoughts? That's funny.
Once again on Charlie's team on this one because you mentioned Mowgli. It's the first thing I wrote down was Raised by Wolves. I mean, there's a book about that, and the character's name is Mowgli. I'm just he's got True Blood in here. He's got American Werewolf in London. He's got Peter and the Wolf. He's got fiction alert.
So where's your flag?
Oh, it's up in the air. It's up in the
air. It's up in the air, about to land.
It hasn't landed yet.
It hasn't landed yet.
I want to hear the end of Charlie's thing.
All right, so let's do that right now. Why not? Charlie, we're going to get you in round 3, and your story begins right now.
On day 6, they also printed that they had found an even higher order of Vespertilio Homo that lived by the tower. They were improved in every aspect of the race. Now, the next day, another newspaper came out with a story saying it was all a hoax and that it had been falsely created and that the Journal of Science in Edinburgh had ceased to be publishing in 1865 because they stopped in 1863. They also said that the author was probably Richard Locke, an Englishman who had just been hired by the Sun, and they think that it was done just to raise circulation of a failing newspaper.
So let me get this straight. Your lie is about a hoax.
Yes.
Mind blown. Oh my
I
gosh.
Whoa.
My truth is about a hoax, but that's besides the point.
Good cover. I like that cover. I was not tricking you, but you did discover that I made a mistake, so that was good trickery. So Alan, what do you think?
Oh, I love that. Exactly what you said. Like all the stuff that we've proven was false in Charlie's story was eventually proven to be false, and therefore it not being false. I say that the false stuff he's coming up with was false to begin with, and it is very similar to a story that would be written just about a decade or two later by one Mr. H.G. Wells about the War of the Worlds, where people spied civilizations through a telescope that would invade Earth.
Oh my gosh, and then Orson Welles did the trickery that he did. This is amazing. This has levels, layers, people. And then Chris, what are your thoughts?
Speaking of layers, this has Basic Instinct written all over it. Catherine, whatever her name was the character in the movie. She wrote a book about getting away with murder, and then that's the best alibi. If you write about getting away with murder, and then you murder someone using that exact thing. Charlie did this, as Alan pointed out. He put up this entire hoax and then called his story a hoax, so that we all wouldn't fall. I am throwing the flag on Charlie.
Oh my God. Oh, wow. The flag is still in the air for Alan, but on the ground for Charlie. So this is the time of the show where everybody looks at their notes and sees, it kind of like lets us know their last thoughts, if they have any, and let us know who they think is dying. Oh, my apologies. Chris, I keep screwing you over on that one. Maybe there's a trickery strategy here. He paid me off, people. All right, Chris, are you ready? You're right.
Yeah, keep on lying, Chris. Keep on lying.
Yeah, keep it going. This is good radio, podcast, whatever. Go ahead, Chris. Your story starts right now.
Okay. So, yes, to bring it all together here. So when the Olympics came back, the modern Olympics in 1896, they were brought back, and a group of Athenians who were so, because at the time when they first brought it back, and I don't know the name of the paper, but it wasn't the Athens Courier or whatever it was that Charlie claimed in Edinburgh. They wrote all these stories about, ancient Olympics and all this stuff. And 7 events in the first modern Olympics in 1896 were interrupted by streakers. It was coordinated because my buddy Kyriakis Kyriakou, back then, he was disqualified from 7 events. So people, they got together and they disrupted 7 events by streaking. And in 1896, the athletes were wearing clothes by then.
Aha! Okay, that was actually a question I had, and so I love that they brought back the tradition and/or the rebellion in the 1800s when they redid the Olympics. Charlie, what do you think?
I have 2 questions. One is, what year was the first Olympics, modern Olympics, Chris?
First modern Olympics was 1896.
Okay. And then the other thing is, why would the Athenians be celebrating this guy who got kicked out for not being Athenian?
That's a great question, and I was hoping someone would ask that, because his little city where he was from was now part of Athens. It was not back in the ancient time.
Oh, that is interesting.
He's got answers. He's got answers.
His polis was not in the polis. Okay. All right. So here we go. This is the time of the show now that I was trying to get to before, just because I was excited and I prematurely did it. But hey, guys, we're going to have final thoughts if you have any. We'll just go straight top to bottom. Give us your final thoughts and or your guess for the person that you think is the bluffer tonight and your reasons behind it. Go ahead, Chris.
This is a tough one for me, because I really think that there's so many crossovers between what Alan was saying and movies and books that I know. But I'm going to have to go with Charlie again, because it came down. He just pulled out the Basic Instinct thing at the very end. Call it a hoax, and it wipes away everything he said.
All right, so his flag really did go down for Charlie. Alan, what do you think?
Well, that last thing that Chris was saying, that 7 events were interrupted by streakers in 1896. You couldn't figure out how to stop this from happening after 1, 2, 3, 6 times. You still let this happen? I don't know. This was a little bit shady, but you know what? I'm going to say that Charlie was the liar, because it was just too many things that was clearly science fiction. And and just him saying that it was false at the end is not going to save it for me, because I think it was false from the beginning.
Oh my gosh, bam! That's hard. Charlie, what do you say? Your final thoughts?
Well, I was going to go with Ellen because I thought for a second there we were all going to accuse one other person, but apparently everybody's going to accuse me. So I'm going to go with myself. No, I still think it's Ellen.
That's illegal.
That's illegal. That really is a flag on the play. So you kick Ellen. Ooh, nobody
Save
has
that for
fixed.
the show on hedging.
Yeah, exactly. Hedging your bets. I get it, Chris. Good job. So guys, that's the end of our show. We will open it to the studio audience to see if they have any comments. And it doesn't look like they do just yet. So now we're going to do the best part of the show. I'm going to turn it over to Tech Adam, and Adam is going to help us reveal tonight's history bluff.
All right, Gina, I'm going to take you out, and we're going to get all of our armchair historians center stage. And I'm going to go and ask now, do you think it was Charlie? Or it could have been Chris? Or it could have even been Alan? I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to reveal the bluff this whole time tonight has been Chris! This whole time.
That's the best because nobody voted for Chris, and that's amazing. Chris, I want to compliment you on job well done. Streakers still, in fact, in the NBA Finals the other night, they cut it off because the streaker, they won't show it on TV, but his streaker hit the game floor, the floor that night. So, oh my gosh, Chris, you fooled me. You all kind of fooled me. I wasn't 100% sure at all tonight. So very, very good job, everybody. Thanks, Adam the Tech. You did a great job too. We really appreciate all of your help making us look and sound good.
Oh, you're welcome. Glad to. Thank you very much.
Yes. And one more time, your players tonight have been
Alan?
Chris.
Charlie, I wanted to make one little quick note.
Please.
Technically, the radio program of War of the Worlds happened only 3 years later.
Oh, cool. So 3 years. I don't remember.
Later than what?
Yeah, later than what? That's
than the Great Moon Hoax of 1835.
That's awesome. Thank you for that tidbit. I hope you all learned something, and I hope you all learned our tells. We'll see you next time on History Bluffs. Good night.
Tune in next time. History Bluffs will keep the truth being stranger than fiction. Good night.